What's up? It's Wayne. A few weeks ago, a new law came into effect that is one of the biggest money and tax changes we've seen in the last few years. It's called the One Big Beautiful Bill. And yeah, the name sounds a bit awkward, but this thing has real consequences for your wallet. No matter your age, whether you're getting your first paycheck, or if you're still deciding if you should go to college or not. This bill could save you hundreds, but also could cost you thousands of dollars in the long run, depending on how fast you understand the whole bill. That's why in this video, I'm going to be breaking down what changed, how it works, and how it's going to affect your friends and family. If you're new here, I make economic and political news simple. No bias, just the facts and what it will do for you in real life. Think of this as a shortcut to understanding the things that most people at our age ignore. And real quick, if you do appreciate clear, no nonsense information like this, please click that like button and subscribe because it helps me reach more people who want to learn what's happening. Alright, let's get into what's actually inside the bill. And trust me, some of these are absolute game changers if you know what it's about. First up, no tax on tips. If you work in a restaurant, do delivery, or have any income where some portion of it is from tips, this could be a big win for you because through 2025 to 2028, you won't pay any federal tax on your tips up to $25,000 a year. That means if you earn $15,000 a year from tips, you can keep all of it. Normally, you'd had to report it and pay taxes on those tips, but now not anymore. This even applies if you're getting your tips through card or from your paycheck. It's not just for cash under the table, and this is important. If you make over $150,000 a year, it phases out. So if you're rich, sorry, you don't really get the full benefit. But let's be real. This was designed for everyday workers or the younger generation, especially the ones that are just getting started. Now, next up is no tax on overtime pay. This one is for anyone working more than 40 hours a week. So if you're doing overtime, that means that partial income is tax-free. And once again, up to $25,000. Let's say you normally make $15 an hour, and for your overtime pay, you make $22.50. Now that extra $7.50 won't be taxed. But again, there is a cap, and not many people actually work overtime. In fact, only about 8% of all workers even qualify for overtime pay. So this really only helps a small group of people. But if you are that group of people, then that could be some real money in your wallet. Now, let's talk about the Jump account. This one is quite interesting, as any baby born from 2025 to 2028 can receive $1,000 automatically from the government, and it will be placed into a special savings account. It's meant to grow over time with interest, and by the time the kid turns 18, they could use it for college, living expenses, or even starting a business. Parents can also add up to $5,000 a year on top of that. So if a family is consistent with it, a child can have a head start once they turn 18. Is it life-changing? No, not really, but it's free money, and it's designed to build long-term habits. Alright, moving on. Here's where it gets a bit technical, but stay with me, because some of this might actually help your family save a lot of money. Let's talk about something called the SALT deduction. It stands for state and local taxes. Here's what it means in simplified English. If you live in a state like California or New York, where taxes are super high, you used to be able to deduct from your federal taxes, your property taxes, and also your state taxes, which helped people avoid getting taxed twice on the same money, once by the state and once by the Fed. But starting 2018, they put a cap on that. You could only subtract up to $10,000 when you pay even more taxes. So people in more expensive states, like the ones I mentioned before, have to pay even more taxes overall. Now, with this new bill, the cap is way higher. It's $40,000 starting 2025. So if your family pays a lot of state and property taxes, this could save you thousands and thousands of dollars long term. But here's the fine print. If you make over $500,000 a year, this doesn't really include you, as the benefit starts to shrink after that point. So this really isn't helping millionaires, but it is helping the middle class and the upper middle class of America, especially in high tax states. Now for something interesting. Car loan interest is now tax deductible. This one's new. Basically, if you finance a car made in the USA, you might be able to write off the interest you paid on the loan, up to $10,000 a year, as long as you earn under $100,000 or $200,000 if you're married. This could be helpful if your family is planning on buying a car soon. Normally, interest on personal loans isn't deductible, but now it is, at least until 2028. It's like a mini reward for buying US made cars and staying under the income limit. Alright, let's talk about small business tax deductions like LLCs or S Corps. Now, if that sounds confusing, let me break it down real quick. A LLC is basically a business where you can separate your personal money from your business money. It's cheap, it gives you protection, and makes you look way more legit. Then there's something called a S Corp, which is essentially a upgraded version of a LLC. It's for people making even more money, and it can save you even more on taxes in the long term. So what's the point? Well, with this new bill, if you have a business like a LLC or an S Corp, you may be able to deduct 20% of your expenses right off the top that would have gone to the IRS, which means that if your business made $30,000 that year, the IRS can only tax you for $24,000 instead of the original $30,000. And for bigger businesses in America, that's huge. Alright, so up to here, it sounds like the US government is just giving free money and tax breaks left and right. But we have yet to discuss the negatives to this bill. So we are going to get into the more controversial parts of the bill, as in, what is it going to cost the average American? Because while this bill cuts taxes in a lot of different places, it also cuts spending on programs that millions of Americans rely on, especially the low-income families. Now, let's start off with Medicaid. This bill adds new regulations that require people who are using those programs to work a certain amount of hours every month just to stay eligible for healthcare. It also increases how often you have to reapply for the program and some small fees here and there when you are actually applying. And mind you, this is only in some states. And over time, these benefits will shrink. So if your family is on Medicaid or a friend of yours is also on Medicaid, this can make it more difficult for them to keep that coverage, or mean more out-of-pocket expenses for basic care. Supporters of this bill say that this will push more people into jobs, while critics say that's going to cause millions of people to lose coverage on Medicaid just because they can't meet a paperwork deadline or they don't have a consistent work schedule. The same also goes with food assistance programs. The bill tightens work requirements for SNAP, which is essentially food stamps, and some states will have lesser funding to support low-income families. So if your household relies on the government for groceries or basic needs, that support might not stretch that far in the coming years. Another big impact is going to be the national debt. The Congressional Budget Office says that this bill will add around $2.9 trillion to the national debt within the next decade. That's on top of the already $34.7 billion the United States owes in debt. The argument from supporters is that lower taxes will boost the economy, create jobs, and eventually help the US get out of the debt. But critics say that it's just more money borrowed from the future, and that the generation that's going to be paying for it is us. So yeah, this bill has its benefits, but it also has some serious trade-offs, and most of them will hit our generation the hardest later on. So what do you actually do with all this information? Well, firstly, a lot of people have seen this bill from the news, but they don't know what's actually in it, or they don't know how it affects them. So just understanding the details of the bill puts you in a smarter position to make better decisions in the future. Now, second, you have to take advantage of what applies to you. If you work in tips or overtime, this can really save you money. If your parents are having a baby soon, the Trump account could grow into something useful over time. If you're thinking about buying a new car, ask if it's eligible for the deduction. And if you're building a business, those tax deductions can be good to look at early on. Thirdly, You should also prepare for the other side of it, the negatives. Talk to your family about if they rely on Medicaid or SNAP. Understand that college loans might be a bit more difficult with this new bill. And be smart about what debt you take on in the next few years. Now, is this bill good or bad? Honestly, that's up to you to decide, because I'm not here to tell you what to believe. This channel is about understanding the facts, seeing the trade offs, and figuring out how you can make smarter moves through all of it. You should know how decisions are made by people in power end up affecting your everyday life, even if it feels like they're miles away.